Summer nights are supposed to be safe, warm, and full of memories, but sometimes they become the setting for your worst nightmares. There's something about the way the air hangs heavy, the way laughter drifts through open windows, and the way the world feels just a little more alive after dark. Maybe it's the freedom of school being out, or the promise of adventure that comes with every sunset. But beneath the comfort and nostalgia, there's a darkness that most people never see. Tonight, I'm going to share 3 true stories that happened on summer nights. Stories that started out ordinary and ended in ways no one could have predicted. These aren't just tales to spook you around a campfire. They're reminders that even the most familiar nights can turn on you in an instant. After hearing these, you'll never look at summer nights the same way again. I was 17 the summer it happened, the kind of summer where every night felt endless and every plan was made on a whim. My friends and I had a tradition. Whenever the heat got too much, we'd pile into someone's car and drive out to the lake on the edge of town. It wasn't much, just a patch of muddy shore, a rickety old dock, and a few battered picnic tables. But it was ours. That night, the air was thick and warm, the kind of heat that clings to your skin and makes the world feel heavy. The sun had just dipped below the trees, leaving streaks of orange and purple across the ski, so we spread out blankets, passed around sodas, and let the sound of cicadas and distant laughter fill the silence between us. There were 5 of us that night: me, my best friend Tyler, his girlfriend Jess, and 2 others from our group, Mark and Emily. We'd been coming to the lake for years, but that night felt different. Maybe it was the way the moonlight shimmered on the water, or the way the woods seemed darker than usual. We joked about ghost stories and urban legends, trying to spook each other, but underneath the laughter, I could feel a strange tension building. It started small. Tyler noticed it first, a figure standing at the edge of the trees, just beyond the reach of our lantern's glow. At first, we thought it was someone from town, maybe another group looking for a place to hang out. But the figure didn't move, didn't call out, just stood there, half hidden by the shadows. Jess tried to brush it off, saying it was probably just a hiker or someone passing through, but none of us really believed it. The longer we watched, the more uneasy we felt. We tried to ignore it, turning up the music and focusing on our own conversation, but every so often, I'd glance back and see the figure still there, unmoving. The air felt heavier, the night quieter. Even the insects seemed to hush, as if Takyat sensed something was wrong. Mark, always the brave one, finally stood up and called out, "Hey, you need something?" No answer. The figure just shifted slightly, as if adjusting its stance, but didn't step forward or retreat. That's when things started to get weird. Our lantern flickered, then went out completely, plunging us into darkness. We scrambled for our phones, using the weak glow of our screens to see each other's faces. In the confusion, I looked back toward the trees, but the figure was gone. I felt a chill run down my spine, the kind that has nothing to do with the temperature. We all started talking at once, trying to convince ourselves it was nothing, but I could see the fear in everyone's eyes. We decided to pack up and leave, but as we gathered our things, we heard footsteps crunching through the underbrush, slow, deliberate, getting closer. Emily whispered that she thought she saw someone moving between the trees, but when we shone our lights, there was nothing there. The footsteps stopped, replaced by a heavy silence that pressed in on us from all sides. We hurried to the car, throwing our stuff in the trunk and piling in as fast as we could. Tyler fumbled with the keys, hands shaking, while Jess kept glancing over her shoulder. Just as the engine roared to life, I looked back at the lake one last time. In the faint moonlight, I saw the figure standing on the dock, staring at us. I couldn't make out any features, just the outline of a person, impossibly still. We sped away, not speaking until we were back in town. No one wanted to talk about what we'd seen, but I know we all remembered it. For weeks after, I had nightmares about that night. The figure in the trees, the footsteps, the way the world seemed to hold its breath. We never went back to the lake after dark. Sometimes, when I drive past that stretch of woods, I wonder who or what was watching us that night. And I wonder if it's still there, waiting for someone else to wander too close to the water's edge. It's strange how being surrounded by friends can make you feel invincible, like Nothing bad could ever happen as long as you're together. But summer nights have a way of exposing just how vulnerable we really are, no matter how many people are by your side. Sometimes the darkness finds you even in a crowd. But what if you're alone, with no one to turn to when things go wrong? If you think being with friends keeps you safe, wait until you hear what happened when someone was all alone on a summer night. I never liked being alone in that house, especially in the summer. My aunt and uncle's place was old, the kind of house that seemed to settle and sigh with every change in the weather. They'd asked me to house sit while they were on vacation, promising it would be easy. Just water the plants, feed the cat, and keep an eye on things. I agreed, thinking it would be a nice break from my noisy apartment. But on that particular night, the air was thick and unmoving, the kind of sticky heat that made it impossible to sleep. I lay on the couch in the living room, a fan rattling in the corner, sweat prickling my skin. Every creak and groan of the house felt amplified, echoing through the empty rooms. I tried to distract myself with a movie, but the power flickered twice, making the shadows in the corners seem to shift and stretch. I told myself it was just the storm rolling in. Distant thunder rumbled now and then, but the rain never came. The cat, usually aloof, wouldn't leave my side. She sat at my feet, ears twitching, eyes fixed on the front door. I tried to laugh it off, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The clock on the wall ticked past midnight, and the world outside felt impossibly still. That's when I heard it, soft tapping at the window. I froze, heart pounding, straining to listen. Maybe it was a branch, I thought, or a moth drawn to the light. But the tapping came again, more insistent this time. I crept to the window, careful not to make a sound, and peered through the blinds. The porch light was out, but I could just make out the shape of someone standing in the yard, half hidden by the overgrown bushes. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't see their face, just the outline of a figure, perfectly still, watching the house. I backed away, trying to convince myself it was just a neighbor or someone passing by, but then the doorknob rattled. Slow and deliberate, as if someone was testing to see if it was locked. The cat hissed, her fur standing on end. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, and dialed my uncle's number, but it went straight to voicemail. I didn't want to call the police unless I was sure, so I waited, pressed against the wall, listening. The footsteps moved around the side of the house, crunching softly in the gravel. I heard the back gate creak open, then slam shut. My mind raced with every worst-case scenario I could imagine. I checked every window and door, making sure they were locked, but the sense of being watched never left. I turned off the lights and crouched behind the couch, barely daring to breathe. Minutes passed, maybe hours, it was hard to tell. The only sound was the fan and the distant rumble of thunder. I thought maybe whoever it was had given up, but then I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps on the back porch. Slow, heavy, deliberate. The cat bolted from the room, disappearing under the bed. I stared at the back door, watching as the handle turned just a fraction, then stopped. Silence. Then a single sharp knock. I didn't move. I didn't make a sound. The knock came again, louder this time, echoing through the empty house. I wanted to scream, to roar, but I was frozen. Finally, after what felt like forever, the footsteps retreated. I heard the gate creak again, then nothing but the sound of my own heartbeat. I stayed awake until dawn, clutching my phone, every muscle tense. When the sun finally rose, I checked the yard. There were footprints in the mud, leading from the street to the back porch, then vanishing into the woods behind the house. I never found out who or what came to visit that night. But sometimes, when I'm alone and the summer air is thick and still, I remember the feeling of being watched, and I wonder if the midnight visitor is still out there. Hiding for another house to find. There's a special kind of fear that comes with being alone at night, when every sound feels magnified and every shadow seems to move. It's easy to believe that locking the doors and drawing the curtains will keep the darkness out, but sometimes the real danger is closer than you think. Still, not all nightmares happen behind closed doors. Sometimes the scariest things happen when you're out in the open, where you think nothing can touch you until you realize just how wrong you are. It was supposed to be a perfect summer night, the kind you remember for years. My friend Sam and I had left a bonfire at a classmate's farm, the air still buzzing with laughter and the smell of smoke clinging to our clothes. The field stretched out in every direction, endless rows of corn and wild grass swaying in the warm breeze. We decided to take the long way home, cutting through the fields to stargaze and talk about everything and nothing. The sky was impossibly clear, the kind of night where you could see every constellation, and for a while, it felt like we were the only two people in the world. We wandered farther than we meant to, following the sound of crickets and the glow of Sam's phone flashlight. The party faded behind us, replaced by the soft rustle of leaves and the distant call of an owl. The openness was exhilarating at first, the sense of freedom intoxicating. But as the night wore on, the fields began to feel less like an adventure and more like a maze. The rows of corn all looked the same, and the path we'd taken seemed to vanish behind us. I tried to laugh it off, but I could feel unease creeping in. Sam joked that we were probably just a few minutes from the road, but every direction looked identical. The moon was high, casting long shadows that seemed to move when we weren't looking. We kept walking, hoping to spot a familiar landmark, but the only thing we found was more darkness. The air grew cooler, the sounds of the night sharper. Every so often, I thought I heard footsteps behind us, but when I turned, there was nothing but the whisper of wind through the stalks. We stopped to get our bearings, but Sam's phone had lost signal, and the battery was almost dead. I pulled out mine, but it was no better, just a black screen and the faint reflection of my own worried face. The silence pressed in, broken only by our own breathing. That's when we heard it, a low, guttural sound, somewhere between a growl and a moan drifting through the fields. It was close, but impossible to pinpoint. Sam grabbed my arm, and for the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. We started moving faster, pushing through the rows, trying to find the edge of the field. The openness that had felt so freeing now felt endless and suffocating, as if the world had shrunk to just the two of us and whatever was out there with us. The sounds grew louder, crunching footsteps, the snap of a twig, the rustle of something large moving just out of sight. I tried to convince myself it was just a deer or a coyote, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. Suddenly, Sam stopped. He pointed ahead, and I saw a figure standing at the edge of the field, silhouetted against the moonlight. It was too far to make out any details, but it was tall, unmoving, and watching us. We froze, not daring to breathe. The figure didn't move, didn't call out, just stood there, as if waiting. I whispered that we should go back, but Sam shook his head, insisting we needed to keep moving forward. We skirted around the figure, keeping as much distance as we could, but every time I looked back, it was still there, always the same distance away, always watching. We broke into a run, crashing through the corn, not caring about the noise. My heart pounded in my chest, and my legs burned with every step. The field seemed to stretch on forever, the rows never ending. I lost track of time, of direction, of everything except the need to get away. At some point, I tripped and fell, scraping my hands on the rough ground. When I looked up, Sam was gone. I called his name, over and over, but the only answer was the wind and the distant echoing growl. Panic set in. I stumbled through the field, desperate to find him, but every row looked the same. Every shadow a threat. I thought I saw movement ahead, a flash of Sam's shirt, the glint of his phone, but when I reached out, there was nothing. The growling sound grew louder, closer, circling me. I ran, not knowing where I was going, just running until my lungs burned and my legs gave out. Suddenly, I burst out of the field and onto the road, the sudden openness blinding after the claustrophobic darkness. I spun around, expecting to see Sam right behind me, but he wasn't there. The field was silent, the figure gone. I waited, calling his name until my voice was hoarse, but he never came out. Eventually, headlights appeared in the distance, a car from the party, searching for us. They found me shaking and covered in dirt, unable to explain what had happened. We searched for Sam until sunrise, but there was no sign of him. No footprints, no phone, nothing. The only thing we found was a patch of flattened grass and a strange, twisted shape burned into the earth. The police said he must have gotten lost and wandered off, but I know what I saw. I know something was out there with us that night, something that didn't want us to leave. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I can still hear that growl. Still feel the eyes watching me from the darkness. And I wonder if Sam is still out there, lost in the fields, or if he found something none of us were ever meant to see. Summer nights have a way of lulling us into a false sense of security. We remember the laughter, the freedom, the warmth that seems to stretch on forever. But as these stories show, even the most ordinary nights can hide something sinister just beyond the glow of the porch light or the edge of a campfire. Whether you're surrounded by friends, alone in a quiet house, or wandering under the stars, the darkness can find you in ways you never expect. It's easy to forget how quickly a familiar place can turn strange, how a single moment can change everything. Maybe that's why these stories stick with us long after the sun comes up. They remind us that the world isn't always as safe as it seems, and that sometimes the things we can't explain are the ones that haunt us the most. If you've ever had a summer night that left you looking over your shoulder or questioning what you saw, I want to hear about it. Share your own stories in the comments below. Your experience might be the next one that keeps someone else awake at night. And next time you're out on a warm summer night, remember, sometimes the scariest things happen when you least expect them.